Mara this morning. My guest is Councillor Finlay Kanga. Councillor Finlay Kanga is the head of the Office of the Ombudsman, Republic of Liberia. Councillor, I'd like to say good morning. How are you? You want to come closer to the mic?
Sure.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm okay. Good morning. Thank you.
How's everything? Yeah.
Okay. Is that okay?
Yes, it's fine. Maybe you need to just sit. You want to sit closer to the mic? Yeah.
Right, like that?
Yeah. How's everything? Congratulations again.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for the invitation to the Office of Ombudsman.
Okay. First of all, let's understand. People say, I heard about Ombudsman 2016. I remember Councillor Fonanti Kofa was the head of the Ombudsman. President Salif then appointed him, and then Ombudsman again 2017 or 2018, that is. So just tell us, what do you do as Ombudsman? This whole talk about Ombudsman.
Thank you. Thank you, and good morning to those who are following this program. So Ombudsman, as it is an outcome of the 2014 Code of Conduct Act. Now, the Code of Conduct was enacted as a result of Article 90 of the Liberian Constitution. Article 90 of the Constitution seeks to prohibit what is referred to as conflict of interest. And the conflict of interest, basically, as defined in the code, is where an individual uses his government trusted position to seek personal advantage for himself, or personal advantage for a family member, or a personal advantage for his acquaintance in disregard to the public trust. So the Code of Conduct envisioned that government officials who will perform majority of the government service will do that, bearing in mind three basic spirit. That is, they will do that on good governance. They will do that being diligent in what they do, and they are going to do that in order to in a disciplined fashion. Now, if the spirit is followed, then what it's going to create is that it's going to create a government that will serve its people in line with what is provided for on the existing laws and policies and norms of the country.
Okay, we'll get into the Code of Conduct itself, but I just wanted to inform our listeners that the definition of an ombudsman, a person who investigates, reports on, and helps settle complaints, an individual usually affiliated with an organization, base or business, who serve as an advocate for patients, consumers, employees, etc. So, in essence, you are that person who investigate, reports on, and help to settle dispute. But also, you essentially, in this case of the Code of Conduct, you are there to investigate potential violation.
Thank you.
Of that particular law called the Code of Conduct.
Thank you. You've attempted to give a generic definition of what it is about the ombudsman. The definition for the ombudsman is provided in Article 12 of the Code of Conduct.
Okay.
And it provides that the ombudsman is an individual who is responsible to enforce, to investigate, to oversee, to evaluate adherence to the code of conduct.
Mm.
That's a definition that's given by the legislature in the 2014 Code of Conduct as amended 2022. So that definition is our generic definition. Once the ombudsman is doing that, he has been given quasi-judicial power in order to carry on his function. He has the power in order to take on cases of his own or allegations of his own, as an office, and he has the power to receive complaint that be forwarded to him by the public. But who are those that the code applies to, the code of conduct? The code of conduct applies to about 4 individuals or 4 entities. One is the legislative branch of government.
Okay.
2, the executive branch of government. 3, the judicial branch of government. And 4, private organizations that have interaction with government services. And so that means a company that has a contract, for example, with the Liberal Broadcasting Corporation, that entity, the officials in that entity, they are covered by the code of conduct to the extent of their interaction with the government entity. So these 4 individuals are covered by the code, and individuals within them are on an obligation in order to exercise what is referred to as the good conduct of the code, and specifically focusing on what we refer to as the constitution and civil responsibility and professionalism is required of all public officials and those who are in interaction with the code in order to abide by the do and don'ts. But it might be good to know what are some of the do's that the code actually required you to do. The code requires a public official at all times, while exhibiting his function, to comply by all laws of the public library, all regulations within that entity, all norms that are meant in order to ensure that there is going to be integrity in public service. Of course, as I discussed with you earlier, following the spirit of the code, good governance, diligence, and discipline.
Yeah, there are a couple of principles of good conduct that the code of conduct is talking about. Say, for example, merit system, professionalism, leadership, confidentiality, loyalty, discipline, non-discrimination, honesty, openness, accountability, objectivity, diligence, integrity, selfishness.
Selflessness, yes.
Is it possible for those who are potential applicants, or those who the code of conduct applies to, is it possible to uphold these principles?
These are general principles, and these principles are applicable to all individuals, aside even being a public official or a private entity that is performing function for the government or public library. Those are actually applicable. That's what you need. Now, the short way to actually discuss that is do unto others as you want to be done unto you. And those are the principles of good conduct. But the code itself says those principles are subordinate to the responsibility you have as your constitutional responsibility, your civic responsibility, and your responsibility to be a professional individual. Those actually work in line with promoting the spirit and intent of the code. So how can we do that? It might be a good thing aside from the generic understanding of the code. That say, well, it meant in order to promote and prevent the issue of conflict of interest, whilst at the same time promoting good governance and making employees of government to be responsible for their action. It also provides responsibility, all right, on the government obligation, because it creates a balance to ensure that government itself as an entity or as a custodian of everything within the state. We provide the environments to ensure that government employees will have the necessary equipment, training, and environment in order to do their work. It includes, for example, that your office is going to have the equipment based on your professional or the service of that. It might include the issue of chairs, furnitures, and it might include sanitary situation of that are provided for by the public health law. Your bathroom should be in a way that's going to promote your work as an entity. And whilst the government has provided those for you, you have the responsibility to maintain government property. Government property, according to the code, includes a number of property that could be classified in two major categories. One would be the soft property that government owns, and going to be the hard property that government owns. A hard property that government owns will include the government land, for example, the government buildings, the government perform the servicing, government residential building that are there, government training facility, the government schools, government hospital. Those facilities are public officials who are actually charged with responsibility in order to maintain them. They should do that as those property for them. It includes government money. It includes government car. It includes government telephone. Just anything that government give to you, hard property. Also soft property that you have, like the information that you have that come across you because of your public duty. You have to manage them and use them only for the public good. All right.
Councillor Kanga, for me, I have been one person who believed that why should we have a code of conduct or we have a constitution? Because in essence, the constitution guides the way we should conduct ourselves as citizens. Because if you breach the law, essentially you are going against the constitution. So what is the essence of the code of conduct? Well, you have a general constitution that guides the way of life.
Okay. So constitution, when they are done, most constitution in the world, countries that use constitution, and others that do not use constitution, the constitution sets principle, general principle of governance. And so regulations that are going to be developed will be made in order to implement those general principle. Can you imagine, for example, Article 90 that has only 3 articles, all right, or section within there. Those 3 articles have been stretched up in the code of conduct that has like 20 articles, all right? So it's the implementation statute, or it's a way in which to carry on a particular public policy that will be identified in the Constitution. So indeed, regulations, they are okay. The reason they are done is to provide further explanation and framework by which one can go about in order to either enforce a particular public policy or to abide by a public policy. The Constitution cannot do that. For example, you talk about the court. The Constitution said there should be courts established, right? The Constitution has not named the courts that should be established. Now you are having the conversation around the establishment of the World and Economic Crime Code, because the Constitution will provide a framework, but the implementation of that would be done through a statute. And the statute, such as the Code of Conduct, is meant in order to fully flesh out. If you look in the Constitution, it's not going to define the word what is conflict of interest. Article 90 doesn't define that. Okay? But if we look in the Code of Conduct, it's going to define what a conflict of interest is. So the Constitution says what? The general principle of the government, and why the laws provide the implementation mechanism for which a general principle should be implemented.
But I mean, is it not possible that one can breach the code of conduct and not breach the Constitution?
It's impossible. Because, for example, on the code of conduct, let's look at one code that the Constitution provides that there should be no hindrance to information, right? And Constitution provides limited safeguard and say, well, if the information is meant, for example, for business purposes, for intellectual property related, the information cannot be disclosed. Now, but all the information can be disclosed. The code of conduct, right, have provided a framework, the manner in which you can disclose government information, a procedure in doing that. All right. While there's a freedom of information law that also sort of like complements the Constitution in terms of information, a disclosure,
the right to know.
The right to know. That same law, the freedom of information, provide restriction on information that you just cannot release. Right? Sensitive information, right, cannot be released, even though you come across that. So we will not find that specifically in a constitution. The Constitution gave a general framework, right, as our Constitution is. You find the freedom of information and providing the enabling framework for what do we refer to as public information and how can we even do it.
But the Constitution is superior in that context.
Indeed. But the Constitution does not give you the mechanism. Now, if you wanted an information saved from the library broadcasting system, the Constitution does not provide a mechanism to do that. Right? What provides a mechanism is the freedom of information law. That if you wanted an information, you have to request for it. You must request for it. If it's not publicly disclosed, you request for it, and then the agency that actually has that information will release that information, provided the information is not one of the information that are being covered. National security, for example. All right. Or for the code of conduct, if an investigation is ongoing, that information cannot be disclosed. The code of conduct prohibits any information when there is any investigation. What would not be protected, right, as a confidential information in the code of conduct would be the decision. When the decision is reached by the office of the ombudsman, it's going to be released. In that instant, that information become a public information. But all investigation that will lead to that decision, right, you cannot release that. You'll be in violation of the code of conduct.
Councillor Kanga, I mean, in 2017, the code of conduct actually became famous because it was given a bloody nose, brutal violation of the code of conduct. Say, for example, part 5, political participation. I bring your attention to part 5, political participation. Part 5, 5.1. They say all officials appointed by the President of the Republic of Liberia shall not engage in political activities, canvass or contest for elected offices, use government facilities, equipment, or resources in support of partisan or political activities, serve as a campaign team of any political party, or the campaign of independent candidate. I mean, maybe 2017 is far too long, but October 2023, we saw that there was a brutal violation of the code of conduct. We saw presidential appointees becoming chair of a campaign team. So, I mean, are people respecting the code of conduct in general sense?
Now, being an ordinary person, Councillor Kanga, as a teacher, I would have probably made that statement that you are making. Being the chairperson and members of the ombudsman, we cannot make any statement until we conduct an investigation. So the allegations you have will need to be investigated.
So can you investigate previous violation?
Indeed, the court have the now. But what you are saying is an allegation, and if it's an allegation that could likely come before us, right? We cannot discuss that. But what we can tell you is that the code of conduct, since its inception, in 2014 have had two major amendments. 2017 was the first amendment of the code, and that part far that you are talking about was removed from the code of conduct and was signed to the National Election Commission. But because it has code in it, the only function the code of conduct has now to it is to provide oversight and to monitor the compliance of that. For example, any entity that is doing that is following the rules. You understand that? Because that's what we have on it. If it's not within,
also we have amended version of the code.
Yeah, there are two major amendments. So part 5 was taken away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's not the content. The content remains valid, but it's not under the purview of the National Election Commission. Also, part 10 of the code of conduct, all right, that deal with the issue of asset declaration and bond. That aspect was again taken from the code and given to the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission. So what power do we have right now? We have the power to monitor the adherence of that aspect, right? We have not lose that, but it's now we're in here because the code itself, right? It being enforced by any other professional code within Liberia. So if you say what has happened over time, even though there have been attempts to establish the office, and the office has not fully been established until recently, right? When President Varga, His Excellency, nominated and folks were confirmed by the Senate, and recently 3 presidents were appointed by the president. They are now in startup. They are in the process of starting up the office by getting an office space, by getting the office equipped, and so they are working along with the GSA to ensure that they have an office and to ensure that the office will have the necessary equipment to begin to work. But despite that, the code has been attempting to self-regulate itself. So, for example, in a case, Selena Mape Poison, all right, had challenged a component of the code of conduct that was in
former superintendent of conduct.
Yeah, I challenged and said that aspect was in violation because it had named few individuals, all right, to be barred from participating into a process. And the court came up with a decision on that. Again, in Abu Kamara, it was Abu Kamara versus the Republic of Liberia, our neck. In that case, Abu argued that, look, I cannot be called by the code because, look, I was in government before the code actually probably came to being, so I cannot be covered. And the court said, look, his action, all right, for saying that, to say I'm in government, I'm not covered by the code, it was a grievous violation of the code of conduct. As a result of that, the court interpreted it to mean he was barred from participating because of the code of conduct. So you see, even though they're not being an office set up, but the code has been self-implementing itself, right? Which is interesting, right? For a law.
So who implements that? Because the code covers the 3 branches, and private citizens interacting with the government.
Yeah. So who actually interpreted the code? So under the Abu Kamara versus in that case, Abu had taken a case to the court to say, well, look, my right has been violated, right? My constitutional right to participate in election has been violated. And then the court, using the code of conduct as a basis for a judgment, he said, no, you are in violation. You're not just not in violation of the code, but you are in grievous violation of the code, right? So under that framework, it means the code is being implemented
by the judiciary.
Yeah. So it means the court is like self-implementing itself without having the office of ombudsman, right? Who is under responsibility to ensure
you honor the executive in that context?
No. Now the code of conduct is conducts that are actually meant for employees of government and those who are interaction, not to breach. The office of ombudsman was established as a result of the 2014 law. Their function is to ensure that those who are going to be in violation of the code, when they are investigated, they should be penalized based on the code sanction. They are to ensure that the code is enforced. They are to ensure that there will be investigation if there are complaints brought to them, or if they themselves take complaint. They are to ensure that they provide oversight for the implementation of the code. That office is the office that I'm hailing right now along with my teams. Right?
Who do you report to?
As a code,
Yeah.
like all government entity, right? Institutional report to, it got to be the executive, it got to be the legislative branch of government.
Okay.
Those are reporting entity that you have to report to. So they can call us in anytime and want to find out, for example, what are you doing? All right. Since we actually nominated, confirm you, what have you done? All right. Or they must say, tell us why we should not hold you in breach, of the code of conduct because of this. Right. So in that instance, how to report to them. Our reporting function to the executive is basically meant for information sharing. So one of the things in the code is we are to develop a guidelines for the operation of the code and procedure for the office of the ombudsman. If we do those guidelines, they'll be shared with the executive, basically for information purposes. And once they have been shared with them, then they will now publish them in the newspaper as an official gazette. And usually who will do that is going to be the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. All right, so that's how government work. We do not have that power to do the official gazette. But once we have done it, we now interact with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that will now do an official gazette, publish those things in the newspaper,
the
guidelines. Yeah, then they become functional so that everyone can actually begin to use them as a way to interact with the office.
I know the code calls for an office of the ombudsman. That is part of the implementation of the code in itself.
Yes.
But what extra flavor, just looking at how it was self-regulated in the past, what extra flavor does that bring to the code itself, having an office, having a chairman, and co?
Well, what he has done, it has brought to the full establishment of the code implementation, because the office itself now can identify the code to individuals, staffers who are going to be professional people, or are going to have people who are going to be hearing officer, right? Then we are going to have people who are going to be monitored and case intake officer, or we are going to be having people there who are going to be monitoring, for example, inundation, or what you call suspension in government. We are going to be monitoring, for example, affirmative action that will be taken by government entity to ensure, for example, that those who are disadvantaged, right, they are also given a balance in order to work. Okay, if they have certain competence. Okay, we are going to, so the affirmative action, we are the one that can monitor them now, because it's within the code. The government entity, right, to ensure that people who are disadvantaged or appropriate affirmative action they achieve. So so we have brought the code of conduct to another level whereby you can identify the code with individual. We now become the guardian of the code of conduct. It means that we should first learn the code of conduct as of your ombudsman. We should begin to apply that to ourselves as the office of ombudsman, and they will begin to ensure that we can now begin to follow the implementation of that into the wider public for the public good.
Isn't it a huge task for you and co-workers at the office of the ombudsman to ensure the full implementation of the code of conduct? Do you see, or are you going to be fighting to ensure that implementation and adherence to the code of conduct is amongst those that the code applies to?
Indeed.
Are people in the past? Do you think that people are actually afraid of breaching the code of conduct, and how well do these people know that there exists a code of conduct?
Like many of our laws, not many person knows about the code of conduct, and so this engagement that you're having with ISET is to promote the code, is to create awareness that there is a code of conduct that regulates all of our conduct. All right, a government official. All right, so this is an awareness tools. All right, so if we were to come here and discuss, for example, since the code is a big document, right? They will probably say, let's find time to discuss a section of the code, right? And then we'll go into detail of that section to know what that section is actually all about. Other than that, it becomes difficult for the individual to understand the code. So, for example, say part 11 of the code, all right? It talks about personal behavior, and work ethics. And then on that, you have a lot of prohibitions against things that you cannot do. All right. So, for example, it will tell you, government official, you cannot exploitation, all right, of your relationship as a government official to actually get undue advantage. So, for example, let's say as a government official here now, say I go to a supermarket, I took goods, and I say, oh, I am the head of the code of conduct, or I'm the chairperson of the ombudsman. I do not have money to pay. So looking at situation is actually prohibited under the code. That's just a wrong work ethics to do that.
So that means the code too does apply to you.
Yes, indeed, the code apply to me. I cannot do that. So in sexual harassment in the workplace, government official and employee of government, should not engage in the conduct of nature that unwanted interaction with an opposite sex. All right, and if you do that in an unreasonable way, right, and you have been reported, you might be held for the violation of the code standing on a sexual harassment. All right, so
for example, another one says here, no public official or employee of government shall consume alcohol while on duty.
Indeed. So that work ethics, right? So you cannot go to work and you are not in your referral from your mom. Not only alcohol, but you are taking other drugs that will make you to be unfit. All right. So so if you took a drugs that the doctor did not take.
So the code is a moral law. Huh?
Indeed, it has both moral and legal flame, right? And it also promotes our culture. So government officials, employees of government cannot go to work drunk. No, you cannot go to work drunk. You'll be in violation of the code of conduct. All right. So these sections, it might be a good thing that we spend time and say, look, let's just discuss work ethics. What is expected of us as government officials? We got to get to work on time. When should we get to work? Okay. Or how should we deal with any other person that we interact with? There should be no discrimination at the workplace. Government employees and official of government cannot engage into discrimination. You cannot favor certain employees over the other. That's discrimination, and that discrimination will be that you cannot. That discrimination could also imply you cannot have special service for certain individual looking at public service. Let's discuss washroom facilities, right, where we go to the men's room and the women's room, and you have 4 categories of that, right, in the place. Say this one is for the group of employees, and then when you are done that, then you do not provide this equal service to them. All right. For example, no detergent in the other one, and the other one got more detergent. All right, and the other one is smell it, and the other one smell bright. All right. So those are discrimination. You cannot engage into them as government official.
You're listening to ELBC. This is the Super Morning Show on ELBC Radio. My name is Vafle Kamara. This morning, my guest is the chairman of the Office of the Ombudsman, Councillor Finlay Kanga. Councillor Kanga, what is your expectation as you oversee implementation, adherence to the code of conduct, given its history. I mean, violations, alleged violations. Some violation too were taken to court, and it proved to be a violation.
Yes. So the violations that I can discuss would be those ones that were taken to court, and there have been a court judgment to them. The allegation of violation that you mentioned, we cannot discuss that. We prohibit it because we are under the strictest rule as an ombudsman. In order to make decision on the matter, we must investigate. So in the absence of investigation, we cannot say there is an violation. Those allegations that you are making, because the allegation may just come before us in the next week or so we can really discuss them. But what you call violation with those matters that are taken to court, the Senamape case, the issue of Abu Kamara, and 2 other cases that were there, the Solidarity Movement that also took the court to court, setting the 5.1 again with discrimination, right? We can discuss those because those are already in our history. And as the Office of Ombudsman, one of the department that will be there will be to monitor court judgment and court action, because a court judgment may have impact on our work. Okay, because in the Abu Kamara case, the court also said that the court.
So that means you subject to court opinions.
Yes, court opinion, they become a public policy as well.
Oh,
yeah.
So what is your vision? What do you hope to achieve in the term as chairman of that body?
Well, our team. One of the things I hope to achieve would be to stand up the court. Right. So that is an office building, having capable staff in there that can do the thing. Okay, I can help to ensure that the code is complied with them. That's why I call it, we can do the thing. Right? And then another expectation we have is that we will build public trust. We hope to build public trust. And how do we do that? We need to be example of everything in the code. And by being example means if the rule is that every public official must declare the asset, we must declare our asset and go one more step. Once we declare the asset, we should be able to publish our asset into the one more step. And by doing that, it means we'll be example, not only in our offices, but if we are home, we will be public official, we should deal with people in a just and equitable way, even in our homes. Right, so it actually brought a lot of responsibility on us as member of the Office of Ombudsman. A lot of responsibility. It means that I need to be cordial all the time. So what I expect is building public trust. To build public trust means I have to work hard and work harder than I worked before.
Another thing that's lacking is the popularization of the code.
Indeed.
Especially the amended versions.
Indeed. The code is set, like as a code amendment that we talk about, it just removal, right? So recently, say 2022, the code is sectioned in section 10 were amended to say that one should resign within 2 years.
Yeah.
But the code has now been reduced to 1 year.
Okay.
All right, so basically, they still have the same idea. Folks have got to do that. Then that was in 5. Then the issue of asset declaration that is now with the National Election, the Labor Anti-Corruption Commission. All they did was that they didn't actually tamper with the code much. They only said now that before then, right, the declaration will be done to the individual government agencies, right? Of say, for example, the judiciary, it will be done to the clerk. Say to the executive, it's going to be done to a framework. So say to the legislative branch, it's going to be done to the clerk. All of those will now remove and say, please do that to the National Labor Anti-Corruption Commission as a repository of that, right? The second aspect of that framework is bond, right? Bond up. We who are public officials and we have then will be signed in a government contract, including me and you here, we should actually sign a bond. And there's a law on that, the law on bond, right? And the amount that you have to be bonded. So, being the chairperson of the ombudsman, right? That bond, should be signed by me, and that bond, when it's signed by me, it's going to be taken to the president for his approval. That's what the law say. Right.
All government contracts?
No, public officials.
Okay.
You know, they are in different categories.
Okay.
All right. So if you are the head of the agency, all right, that your bond when it's done, you know, it has to be signed by in my case, my bond has to be approved by the president. So, and when the bond is approved, you know, it serves as a safeguard for corruption. All right. So imagine now, it's a different layer now. I now have a bond, which I'm not done. Right. So if I'm bonded an amount that is within the, have you come across the public employment law on bond?
No.
Okay. So there's a public employment law that is on bond. All right. And we are going to have interaction with the Minister of Justice, how to ensure that awareness is created around that, because the code of conduct talk about bond, so that we can be in compliance. But what are the first people who have to be in compliance of the law? I think it got to be the office of ombudsman. Those who are in the office should ensure that the head is bonded, right, and that the president will sign his bond, and so that if it's bonded, and there is an investigation and there's a finding indeed that he has engaged into a fraud, right, the bonded amount can just be used in order to repay government. Okay, so it's an anti-corruption tools, right? So we need to champion that. So we'll be having conversation with the Minister of Justice how to develop awareness around that, and the procedure in doing that. That the first person that needs to be born, I would think, should be the chairperson of the ombudsman.
Because Lakanga, the ombudsman office does not have prosecutorial power, but I'm very sure it has investigative power. How do you first of all have this instinct of violation of the code before investigation? Who reports to you?
Okay, so the code provides that citizens should report to the office of ombudsman. Citizen. So whenever you notice or believe that a violation has actually occurred, right? You can report that. Or a whistleblower, you know, can think a violation has occurred. You can report that. Now, without any report, the office of ombudsman of its own can go after a situation if they believe that a violation.
If you have sufficient evidence to.
And that's what he's investigating now.
Okay.
Right? So the office can go of its own to investigate. And so, well, once they're investigated, if they find there was a violation of the code, all right, they can also conduct a full investigation, or can conduct a hearing into the alleged investigation. Because now, mind you,
so who prosecutes?
If you say prosecute in the concept of the code arresting someone and taking them to court, no, the code does not have that power. But what can the code do? The code, right, the office of ombudsman can investigate, right, and level penalty. So if you disagreed with our investigation and the penalty against you, you can take an appeal to the appropriate courts in Liberia. You might go to the Supreme Court, depending on what we have actually told you to do. Let's assume we investigated you, just for an example, and you were the head of the agency, and you employed people who are your relatives or those who are under your command.
Under the context of nepotism.
You're under context of nepotism, right? If we investigated and found that you did that, right, we can do a number of things. We can have a situation where we can recommend that you be removed from your position. We can further recommend that you do not have any or taking a government position within the frame of 5 years. And if we do that recommendation, right, say to an entity to do a particular kind of job, and the entity fail. Now, in order to enforce that, we can now go to court to enforce our recommendation.
And the code will back you up.
Indeed, and that would be, will not give you a duty to perform, right? So let's assume that we came here in this place and we found out that the employees here are not coming to work on time. All right. During your time of work, the official time of government work is from actually 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. That's the official time, right? In between there. So some people go to work 8 o'clock, some people go to work 9 o'clock. Now you still being compliant. You got to work 8 hours and get 1 hour rest in between there. But if they are special schedule, right, that will make you come to work, say 10 o'clock, you also need to observe your 8-hour rules, wherever it is. If you do not observe the 8-hour rules, then you are in violation. You are engaged into theft, right? Theft of your duty, and the court can hold you. So if we investigate that and we found that, say 3 or 4 persons here are now working 8 hours, but they have been paid 8 hours, right? We can tell the head of agency, ensure that these folks will come to work, or we can say ensure that the people pay back in the government code, refund the portion of the money they have not done. And we reported that to you as a head of agency, and you fail to comply with our recommendation, we can now sue you. That we will have power to enforce. So we can now sue you to say, look, our recommendation that were done must be done. And you have a duty to do that. And the court having listened, if they think our decision is something that was just was fair, the court will hold you in order to perform that official duty. So we are not a dog that does not have a teeth. The office of ombudsman. The ombudsman is growing teeth by the day. And how are we doing that? Once we have our office, the GSA have given our office, if they are giving our office, assuming, and we now have our equipment, and now we begin to staff up, you now see our teeth is going to be growing, and you are going to find more of us around.
Even in the absence of an office space now, do you take complaint?
Right now,
do you have one?
It's a little bit tricky. I know that we are doing a few fact finding, which I cannot tell you where they are. But over the next course of the day,
Martin Colley, for example, publicly said that he's complained or filed a complaint to the office.
Yes. So if there is anything that filed to my office, it cannot be discussed.
Oh, okay.
There's nowhere. So don't bring anything that somebody said they filed to me. It cannot be discussed, and it's a violation of my duty.
But the complainant said that one public can say I've filed.
I cannot discuss it.
Okay.
Yeah, I cannot discuss it. At that point, I'm prohibited
from discussing
anything called complaint. All right. Even if I am the one doing an investigation, I'm prohibited to even discuss that. All right. So if there are citizens that have actually complained, they may have the right to do that, but I do not have any right. I'm going to be
to comment on it.
Yeah, I cannot comment on it. I cannot discuss it. What I could tell you, for example, I could tell you no more complaints. Right? I could tell we are receiving maybe 5 complaints, or we are that would say. All right. But my colleague, Councillor Lamin Bago, Councillor Lamin Bago, who is dealing with the issue of fast finding and complaint, he has not even told me anything about that, but he deals with that. And if you wanted to get detail of any complaint of fast finding now, it might be good you call Councillor Lamin Bago, and he's going to give you every information on complaint in that kind of framework, right? I'm actually prohibited to do that, but I can have the conversation with you is discussing, specific component in the codes and how people can actually access our services.
Okay, this is the Super Morning Show. My name is Fafli Kamara, Councillor Finlay Kangai, the chairperson. Is that the right title, chairperson? Chairperson, office ombudsman.
Yes, office of ombudsman, ombudsman office.
Okay. Yeah. He's here as my guest. So how far with the office? I mean, when will we see the office set up, everything?
Well, the office is right now we are in deeper conversation with the GSA, and they are looking for building for us. Our conversation for building is around Congo Town and Mambam Point. So there are 2 office buildings that GSA is looking at now. One is right here in Kankatan Back Row. There's another office building on the 9th Street, and the GSA is looking into that. Once the GSA can conclude that, then we have an office. And the other thing would be now to begin to equip that office. And we will now start equipping that office by talking to the relevant agency in government to ensure that the office is equipped.
Okay. So call us on 0770581886, 0770581886, and be live. This is Elbc, the Super Morning Show. Call me on 0770581886. I have with me Councillor Finde Kanga. He's the chairperson of the Office of Ombudsman, Republic of Liberia. Let's see if we can take this caller right here. Good morning.
Good morning, Pablo.
Good morning.
This is Lauren call you from Lofa and the four this morning, Pablo.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me appreciate the councillor this morning for what he's saying. Let me touch small issue about this legislature project. But let me say this. I do Deputy Speaker Honorable Thomas Bangaba by him having the solution to show the project. Honorable Judy, we believe that Ali, the ombudsman, also before he leaves the zero, he will allow and announce the number. Have a good day, family.
Okay, thank you. Let's hear from this person. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. What's your name? Let's hear you. Where you call from?
I want you to please Ali announce two number on the radio.
Okay, but you already on. You can make your points. We'll try to do that.
I want to hear you this morning. I love to hear from you on the radio. But a matter of fact, you from Pony Tori. I think it's number 5. And I really love to hear your voice on the radio.
Good morning.
Good morning, Bafole. How are you?
I'm fine. Ishmael.
Yeah, thank you, Bafole. Yeah, you are right. 100% correct. Thank you. God bless you. This is the Ishmael Azijim, friends coming around the community. And I'm calling you in the home of the Deputy Speaker, Foya District of Wanzuba County. Bafole, let me actually be appreciative to Elbc for bringing the little closer to our district to get what happening in the country. Let me appreciate our studio guest this morning. Actually, I've been listening to him, and then for what you explained, and then actually I'm very much glad and I'm happy, and I believe they are working in the interest of the Liberian people. So I believe that they will continue to do the job. The God bless you, Bafole. Elbc is 100% radio in this country. The God bless you, all the staff of the medium.
Thank you, Ishmael. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. What's your name?
My name is MC for you. I'm calling from Greco County.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. I want to employ the honorable this morning. Yeah, emphasize on code of conduct. You see, one thing I was said in Liberia is that we agree to join a united body, but refuse to abide by the rules of laws that govern that body. And the rules of laws that govern body is a code of conduct. So if you want to be a part of something and don't want to abide by the rules and order, then how you think you'll be part of it? So I know these are the things that are really happening in Liberia. I will say that several times. Because you're part of an organization, the order of the rules of that organization, you might abide by it. That will make you a pertinent member of the organization. So I want to say thank you this morning. That you should continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commendations for you, Councillor Kanga. But I just wanted to ask if accessibility to people like you at the court is necessary, and also people to know the office, where exactly the office will be located and all that. Let me hear from this person. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Quickly, what's your name?
Well, this is Johnson Kekopla, and I'm joining from River Defense Town.
Yeah, Johnson, go ahead.
I listened to your studio guest this morning. But my attention has been due to the just ended election 2023, because there are a lot of people that work with government, even president appointed that had these positions within the elections. I don't know whether the ombudsmen were not really seeing them. That's my question to him this morning.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I asked if they can investigate past violation or perceived violation of the code of conduct. He said yes. So another thing, what would be the basis for strict adherence to the code of conduct?
Why does one want to do that? The code provides a framework for that. If you add adhering to the code of conduct at the point that it is recognizable in your entity, the code provides that you need to be recognized and you need to be awarded in many ways. What could be some of the awards that you could get if you are in compliance with the code and the head agency believe that they will give you promotion in your job? They could give you bonus on the job. They could give you some special recognition, or they could give you a more difficult job, because you got certain skills, so we'll give you more difficult job as a way of promoting public trust. So you got reason for following the code of conduct, for being compliant, because you could get not only material benefit, right, but you could get recognition that's far above and beyond what an ordinary employee would get, and that's why you need to actually comply with the code of conduct. Aside from no benefit, it's a constitutional requirement that you need to be in compliance of all of our laws, whether they are civil laws, whether they are regulations, whatever they are, we have to be in compliance. Even if you don't believe that the law is a good law, you must comply with that. The code of conduct will appreciate that you comply with that law and that you faithfully discharge the duty of that law. Even if you believe the fact that it's a law, your belief cannot supersede the law. You might say, look, I don't like the law, okay, but I must comply with the law. Let's assume you say, I don't like the law that I have to drive, in a queue when there is a traffic. But you are on a duty to abide by that.
Okay. Well, Councillor Kanga, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much for being on the show this morning.
Thank you.
Well, he's Councillor Fine Kanga, the chairperson, Office of Ombudsman, Republic of Liberia. My name is Vafle Kamara. Join me tomorrow for another